Good evening. Who here has ever felt like that they don't belong or useless or powerless? Anyone? Yeah. More often than not, many of us don't have to deal with feelings like this all the time, but we usually spend a lot of our time using our power to avoid feelings like this. Hope for the Inner City is rooted in the East Chattanooga. Why don't I do this? There you go. Hope for the Inner City is rooted in the East Chattanooga section of the city, and our mission is to provide pathways through feelings such as these by the dignity of work. We engage in, invest in, and empower our neighbors to bring economic stability to their community for the glory of God. Now, if you breeze through that, you could miss two very important things. First, our work of engaging, investing, and empowering is not to help the helpless or to serve the poor. No, we are here to do whatever we can to allow our neighbors and their neighborhoods to flourish. Sometimes the best thing that we can do is to get out of the way. Second, our aim is not simply economics. It's not jobs, it's not financial peace, and it's not local business. Our aim is the glory of God, who we believe has inaugurated a new kingdom, a new society, if you will, in which these various social maladies are overcome and healed by the presence of Jesus amongst his people. Sometimes the best thing we can do is be completely present. So today we are here to talk and think through the issue of violence that is plaguing inner city youth. At Hope, we have found a solution that is rooted in the very identity of men and women, as created in the image of God. Dignity. Dignity that is unveiled through the sacred channel of work. If you are familiar with the first book of the Bible, Genesis, and what we Christians call the fall, you will notice that despite what many may think on Monday mornings, work was part of what it means to be human, even before sin entered in the world. So we are combating the roots of violence in our youth, feeling like they don't belong, uselessness, and powerlessness, by unveiling dignity through the provision of work. As Dr. John Perkins once said, you don't give people dignity, you affirm it. Here we see some youth from our neighborhood learning how to work with wood, use power tools, use a tape measure, and build furniture. We also provided them with the soft skill training to help prepare them for the professional world. And for the visionary self-starters, we did some basics in entrepreneurship. Now I could run through the list of what a typical client looks like at Hope for the inner city. And it would not be inaccurate to say that we see a tremendous amount of brokenness and need and poverty and tragedy. We serve gang members, foster kids, those from the juvenile court system, and as we learned the hard way, some thieves. But that is not the only part of the story. As Christians, we also believe that the beginning is hopeful. That may sound crazy given what this world is, but it's what we believe. Every time a child is born, this is a sign of God's love and hope for the world. Every child and youth has a purpose, and everyone is uniquely equipped. So our relationships with youth have to affirm who they are and how they feel. But they also need to be stretched to envision beyond what our culture is handing them. We have found reconciliation, both with God and one another, to happen shoulder to shoulder through the dignity of work. We have been blessed to see rival gang members learn to work together, and in doing so, cultivate the seeds of friendship. And even in this picture, we have a couple different gangs being represented. So here it is, our biggest obstacle to addressing youth violence is time, presence, and commitment. What youth need and not what we're willing to give them. Not just what we're willing to give them. Meaning, it is critical to count the cost and the calling to this work. It is why we believe the church to be uniquely equipped for it. Christians are commanded by their Lord to deny themselves, and that's what it takes. Inner city youth have very specific gifts, abilities, challenges, and needs, all of which need to be affirmed. It is simply not helpful to enter into this work only willing to give what you want to give. And so here are some parting words and details. These are some of the inherent difficulties of this work that we are in, and they are the must-haves for folks looking to engage, invest in, and empower in similar ways. There must be parental involvement, because parents also deserve the dignity of being empowered as caregivers. Do not act in the stereotype of absentee parenting. They must be trauma-informed. Do not simply look at the surface of behaviors. If we only knew what some of these youth have seen and been through. The work we're doing is done with limited staff capacity, and it really takes a special breed of person, you could say. It must highlight assets and dignity, despite negative perceptions. Every day we have to pray to ask for the eyes to see hope around us. We must navigate a lack of vocational preparedness and access to employment. And we have to be realistic about how our educational and economic systems are ill-equipped to deal with these deep-rooted issues. We must deal with the glorification of crime and violence and bring awareness to the reality of living in a violent context. It's not a game, and lives are at stake. So some of our staff and board members have heard the call to be present in our community, to live there, to work there, and invest there. It takes a complete recentering of our lives in order to make decisions like these, and they're not just looking at the problems. They're looking at Jesus and his gospel of hope.